15 years ago, you rode off with Robert Baratheon. You came back a year later with another woman's son.
Is my mother alive? Does she care?
And now you're leaving again.
I have no choice.
You do have a choice, and you've made it.
Well, it's extraordinary how much success that the show has had. Obviously, it's a pop culture phenomenon.
Well, for season 1, we all knew the scripts were great, and everybody was really excited and nervous about starting and doing the job. And then after it's finished, then they go away and they do the edit and they grade, and then we have to do the ADR, which is the audio that you do afterwards. The sound in the first episode was appalling. So we had to practically sync everything. And as an actor, it is the most soul-destroying thing ever. You spend hours in a studio staring at your ugly face, trying to lip sync. And then you start having tantrums going, I can't do it. And also because a lot of Catelyn stuff is emotional, that you have to try and recreate it again. But actually what's amazing is how quickly you slip back into it.
I've heard it said by fantasy and sci-fi actors that speaking Shakespeare on stage with those flowery words, yet with the import there at the same time, gives you a leg up to speak fantasy, so to speak, on television.
The reason I was seen initially for the Catelyn Stark was because David Benioff and his wife Amanda Peet were in London, and I was doing Othello at the Donmar, and they saw me play Amelia, and they obviously thought there's something about the character that resonates with Catelyn Stark. I remember having a conversation with one of the new actors in season 2, and we were on horseback and we were doing a scene on a cliff, and he was saying, how do you do this language? I mean, it's very flowery. And I said, well, treat it like Shakespeare. Give it a rhythm and let it flow. When you're trying to piece together a character, a voice is an integral part of it. And it's the placement of it, how it sounds, how rich it is, or how low or high it's meant to be. And it's finding that placement that you can feel comfortable with. And it's just about studying your script and getting the voice right. You also have the books. What I do is I read per series because I made a choice that sometimes to be too far advanced and to carry too much of what you know is going to happen, it can imbibe what you're doing too early. And George writes the internal thoughts of a character. So those are also really helpful as well. But you do spend a lot of time on your own thinking and talking to yourself until they're in there, until they're second nature to you and you don't actually have to think. You can just react.
When it comes to the cast and crew, you have a very tight connection. Is there somebody that you've found you've cottoned on to in a way that you didn't expect?
Well, I do have a lot of connections in Belfast, really, because I filmed a lot there. So I knew a lot of the crew. Conleth Hill, who plays Varys, his brother Ronan Hill is the sound guy, and he's a brilliant sound guy, and he won an Emmy for season 2. So I grew up with Conleth, and Ronan and I and Conleth and his sister Ailish, we used to go swimming, and we went to school together, went to a convent, and so I'm a very good girl. And but so you do have a lot of friends there, and you become friends. Everybody is so friendly. There's no hierarchy, and it's about the work. But of course, you become very close with the people that you work the most with. For me, particularly, that is the Stark family, and also the Lannisters in season 1. And Lena and I are great mates, and Peter, and also Nikolai, Sean, and Mark, who was the king, and also continuing into seasons 2 and 3, it's Richard Madden, who plays my son Rob.
You are the daughter of publicans.
I sure am.
Fairley's House of Wines in Coleraine, which isn't very far from where you've shot some scenes.
Oh, it's great. It's really lovely, actually, because you go back home to work, and my parents are still there, and my sisters, and some of my brothers. There was a scene that we shot at a place called Murlough Bay, which is where we used to go swimming as a kid. And that was lovely. And it's one of those things where you stand on this cliff, and over there is Scotland, and it's the Mull of Kintyre, and then you're standing on Ireland, and it's just the most amazing scenery in the whole wide world. And we had snow in season 1. There was actually one day where we shot the first part of the scene the day before, and in the middle of the night, it snowed really heavily. So when we got there in the morning to the location, I know it sounds ridiculous, but they had the props guys out brushing the field to get rid of the snow, and as the snow was falling, because otherwise they couldn't get the two scenes to match. And these things happen, unfortunately. But they've got such a big budget for special effects, they could add it in the other scene. The budget didn't allow for the journeying, and every time they did a bit of the journey, they got it at the end of the journey when they'd arrived and they entered a tent. So that's why Catelyn spends so much season 2 in a tent. Most of the stuff that I do is in Ireland, and Ireland, it rains a lot. And there was several scenes where you just thought, oh God, no, not another fucking muddy field. The costumes are heavy and long, so you're literally pulling a ball of mud behind you by the time you've crossed a field. And there was one scene I had to do with Richard where they had to put planks down because the mud was so deep that you pulled your foot out of your shoe. And then the sound guy started complaining about the noise of the mud and stuff like that. So then the wood went down. And we didn't rehearse on it, which was really stupid. And in the first take, I come flying onto the wood and go flat on my backside. And it's because the back of the costume is completely muddied. I have one costume. I'm the most underdressed character in the production. And so I actually feel like it is my second skin. And it's the green cloak, which buttons in the middle with the little tully fish. And the costumes are designed by Michelle Clapton, who is incredible. And she has the most amazing team of seamstresses and people who work literally in a tent at the back of the studio. And this tent goes on and on and on and on. And thousands of costumes come out of there. There's a neck thing that I wear, which is like 2 cushions on top of each other, and it comes down the front. But the embroidery on the 2 cushions, all the fishes, they're all emblems of her family. You love all of that aspect, and that really does add another layer to the character. And once you put those clothes on, you feel differently. They're heavy. Your hair is different as well. I have a hair piece which is sewn in. It's not a wig. And it's a very long piece, about that length, and it's got gaps in it, so my hair is pulled in between. But when it's done, it looks like it's my own head of hair.
Is there any different approach when you deal with a seasoned actor like Peter and somebody who's a relative newcomer like Gwendolyn Christie?
In season 1, Peter and I were both starting the job together. And in season 2, Gwen, who plays Brienne, is a new character. So she's coming into a series that's already established. So she was particularly nervous. And she also had a lot of stunt stuff to do as well. So she did a lot of rehearsal, and they wanted her to lose weight in order to build up muscle. So she was on quite a strict diet, and also she was in the gym a lot. And so you are aware how nervous someone else is, and your job is to make people feel relaxed and at ease. And so when you get onto set, if she wants to run lines and blah, 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 and we're actually really good friends, Gwen and I, because we had such a lot to do together, that we spent so much time together that we just became really close. And she's a wonderful girl. Peter's incredible fun to work with. One of the first scenes that I shot was with Peter, actually, and it was it's season 1 when I've kidnapped him and we get hijacked. And that was a 3-day filming sequence. And we spent most of it hiding under rocks because the 2 of us didn't get to do any fighting. So we'd be hiding like this and rocks would be flying over. And we just had a laugh, actually. And then, on the last day, we had to get on horseback and go up this huge quarry, which was actually a real quarry. And the drops were so sheer. And Peter hasn't got particularly a lot of horse riding experience. So we were up the top of this huge quarry, and the wind is so strong. And we're doing the scene where we gallop up to the Erie. And as we're waiting and standing around and we're just chit-chatting away, blah, 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 one of the actors who's in a suit of armour is put on this horse. And the poor horse is not a trained horse, so he doesn't know what this thing is. And it makes this creaking and banging and clink and clack, and the horse goes ballistic and just starts bucking and rearing and fighting all over. And we're Peter, whose legs just reach to about the height of the saddle. And we're sitting there in this wind right on the precipice of this quarry, and this horse is going crazy. This actor in a complete suit of armour is being thrown all over the place. Everybody is like jaw on the ground. And the next thing, the horse does one final buck, and this actor goes flying through the air. Literally, he's in slow motion, and you just see this suit of armour come like that, flat on his back. And we're like going, oh my God, he's dead. He's dead. And he doesn't move. And the horses are just like in shock as well. And you'd hear a pin drop. The wind even stopped. And so and the next thing is he moves 2 fingers. And and everybody goes over and said, are you okay? Are you all right? And the producers are there, and everybody's terrified in case the poor guy is dead or broken his back or something. And you're just like, this is mad. This is absolutely crazy.